All right, Alexander, we have to talk about the economic situation in Europe, specifically Germany. We're getting a lot of warnings from a lot of business leaders who are basically sounding the alarm. And I will say this, when the collapse does come in the EU and specifically in Germany, you you can't put the blame on CEOs of big and medium and small companies, to be quite honest. They have been warning the German government from even before the sanctions really started to ramp up. So they're warning and warning and warning, but Schultz is not listening, nor can he listen. The Greens are on this ideological mission to power Europe with wind, solar, ice cream, and puppy dogs, and they're hell bent on creating their green utopia. You know, the ends justify the means. If people have to suffer for 10, 15 years, that's fine for Braubach and Habeck. And it's just an all around bad situation in Germany that's forming, and we still have not seen Russia really retaliate. And we also have a lot of a disagreement in the EU in general with regards to the oil embargoes and stuff like that. So, where do you want to begin with?
Let's begin with
the EU
let's
economy?
begin with let's begin with the very last point, because you're absolutely right. There's been a lot of dissension within the EU about the sixth package of sanctions, which is, the suicide note sanctions. I mean, I can call them. I mean, they're not as bad as they can get, but they're already pretty bad. I mean, the idea of even talking about restricting imports of oil from Russia is a pretty bad idea. But you are getting some countries that are pushing back. Hungary has been pushing back very bravely, very strongly. Even countries like the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Bulgaria, all of those have also been pushing back. But the one that ought to be making the difference, the one that's most exposed, the one that's most vulnerable, the one which ultimately has the most to lose is Germany. And you're absolutely right. Now, we've just had the CEO of Bosch. He's just come out. He said that this is an incredibly bad idea. We've got to try and find a negotiated solution to the Ukrainian crisis, because if we don't, well, Germany's basically, finished economically. We had Siemens, we've had one German company after another, the CEOs, as you rightly say, all coming out, all saying, don't do this thing. For heaven's sake, don't do this thing. And yet, it's going to happen. Because let's be straightforward about it. Hungary can put up a heroic rearguard action. Bulgaria, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, up to a point, can do the same. But if Germany, France, Italy, Spain, and the Commission are all agreed on something, sooner or later, it's going to happen. So we are now going to be drifting to a ban on hydrocarbons. And you're absolutely correct about this. It is astonishing that a party, the Green Party, which is, around a quarter of the vote in Germany, it's big, but it's not enormous, is dictating the entire policy with two ministers, Habeck and Baerbock, who, to be straightforward about it, are completely inexperienced and, frankly, incompetent at what they do. But as you rightly say, they have an ideological mission, they have an obsession, they don't care about German industry, because of course they hate industry. They don't care about industrialized agriculture, which is essential if you're going to feed people. I mean, if you want to see what happens if you try to transfer your entire agricultural economy to an organic basis, look at what's happening in Sri Lanka, where there are now food shortages and where the prime ministers had to resign. So, I mean, but they are focused single-mindedly on this. They hate Russia for all kinds of historic, cultural reasons. Also, I suspect, because it's the great producer of hydrocarbons. And they're driving Germany and Europe over the cliff because they're in alliance with the European Commission, which is also fixated with Russia to an unbalanced degree. And of course, we've also got the Baltic states and Poland, which have various historic grievances that are also driving them in the same kind of direction. Now, there's just been a report from an economics team in Germany, which said that if Germany cuts itself from Russian gas supplies, that will mean that the German economy will contract by 12%. Not 2% or 4% or 6%, 12%. That's what they say will happen. But the pressure to do it is, of course, there. It's mounting. And if you remember Baerbock, not Baerbock, Habeck going off to Qatar, saying he'd agreed this great deal with Qatar. I said this was all absolute nonsense. We're now hearing that the Qataris are absolutely furious because of the way in which the Germans are trying to negotiate a deal which was never agreed with them, that they're not prepared to enter into long-term contracts, they're not prepared to do one thing or another, and that deal, as I said, has no reality. And I'm pretty sure that when things begin, all the pieces fall into place, we will see that all of Habeck's boasts that he's cut German oil dependence on Russia from 33% to 12%, that dependence on Russian gas will be reduced by 3/4 by the end of the year. I mean, I don't know how he thinks he's going to achieve that, by the way. But anyway, I'm pretty sure that we're going to discover that just as Habeck used to write fiction, children's stories, all of this is fiction too.
Yeah, so wherever Olaf Scholz goes and speaks, people boo and they cheer at him. Annalena Baerbock was actually giving a speech yesterday, and I believe the other day, and people were throwing eggs at her. The German people don't need to put up with this. These people are destroying Germany. They're going to destroy Germany. Demilitarization is what Russia is doing in Ukraine. Denazification is what Russia is doing in Ukraine. What Ursula von der Leyen, the EU, and the United States is doing to Germany is deindustrialization. These three words, I think, sum up this entire crisis. Demilitarization, denazification. What Russia's doing and what they're doing to Germany is deindustrialization.
I think it's absolutely brilliant, because that is exactly what they're doing. They're deindustrializing Germany. And to be very clear, that is going to change Germany completely. The Germany we've all known, the Germany not just of the great industries, but also of the famous welfare state created in the 19th century by Bismarck, which provides Germany with this extraordinary social safety net. How is that paid for? From the proceeds of German industry, the whole system of German Volksbank, the savings banks that act as this great balancing hinge to the German economy. They're all integrated in the German industrial system. Take the one away, all of the others collapse. The Germany we will see coming out of this will be a completely different country. It'll be a country which, to be straightforward about it, will fulfill the WEF's dreams.
Yeah, and Ursula von der Leyen is German as well. She was the defense minister, a failed defense minister, to be fair and honest. Yes. She was a terrible defense minister. But it really shocks me to see that it's Germans that are destroying their own country. This is not being done by Russia, really. It's not being done by Macron or France. It's not being done by Draghi in Italy, though they're going along with it. This deindustrialization, this hollowing out of Germany is being done by Germans on a government level with the Greens and Baerbock and Habeck, but also on a European level with von der Leyen.
Absolutely. And of course, our latest idea now is to launch another set of Eurobonds. Do you remember Eurobonds? Never will happen. That's what the German people were told when the euro was launched. There'll never be Eurobonds. There'll never be fiscal transfers. Never any question of a financial union. Well, we've had Eurobonds. We've had financial transfers because, of course, with Christine Lagarde and before that with Mario Draghi, the ECB just buys bonds. I mean, it prints money, prints euros, and buys Italian and French bonds. So that is in effect a form of transfer. Anyway, now they're talking now about launching more euro bonds. A 15 billion euro bond issue to support Ukraine. I mean, it's
to give to Zelensky, to give
to give him exactly, to give to him exactly. So because he's running out of money, or so he says. His budget shortfall is $7 billion a month. So they're going to actually start going into debt. They're going to actually have fiscal transfers. The German taxpayers are going to have fiscal transfers to Ukraine, but not directly. It's going to be done through the European Union. It's going to have Eurobonds. They were promised they would never happen. It's in the treaties, in the agreements, that there will never be any kind of fiscal transfers. Well, there you see it happen.
Netherlands was dead set against this. Finland was dead set against this. And now all of a sudden, you have the EU taking on debt to give to a country that's not even part of the EU. And you know how long this 15 billion is going to last? 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
And when they say 3 months, they actually mean 1.5 to 2 months. Believe me. This is...
Oh, yeah.
I'm absolutely stunned at everything that's going on.
No, I mean, don't worry. I mean, in 6 weeks' time, well, it's very simple. You'll just go for another Eurobond issue. I mean, this is where. But no, it is stunning. It is stunning. It is astonishing, and I mean, it tells you that Europe, Germany, has been led by the nose into a trap. I mean, they've been led by a nose into a trap because, well, they should never have agreed to the euro in the first place. This has always been my view. I've never been one of those people who thought that Germany ultimately benefited from the euro. And I don't mean, the political class there. I mean, the German taxpayers, all those people. But regardless of that, now, as I said, they are heading exactly where you're saying, into debt and into deindustrialization. They're being dismantled.
Yeah. Sometimes I have a hard time understanding who's at war. Is this a war against Russia or Ukraine, or is this really a war against Germany? Sometimes it's hard to understand who's being attacked.
Well, this is a very good question. I mean, to be straightforward about it, I think we discussed this in another program. I think there are some people in Europe who want to see Germany taken down, not just a peg, but brought really far down. I mean, I think Macron, who is looking to see France himself, become the new Napoleon of Europe, if Germany goes into deep crisis, he can step in and become the great leader of Europe, well, he won't be sorry. Trouble is, of course, he's only got 5 years, and the situation in France isn't that good either. So, it's difficult to see how this plays out. And, if you're in the US, and, there are, I'm sure, lots of people in the neocon world who have no concerns about German industry. And I'm sure that there are also some people in the US too who say, well, Germany competes with our industries, so let's see, if it's not it doesn't really hurt us if German industry goes down the tubes. But German industry is an absolutely indispensable part of the Western economic architecture. Think of how many German products you buy. Mercedes cars, Volkswagens, Miele ovens, Fizzler,
Siemens, Bosch, you said, yeah.
Whatever, and Bosch. I mean, all of these, if they all start going downhill, then of course it's not going to be good for the world, for the Western economies. It's not even going to be good for the US economy in the end. But it does fulfill 3 ideological objectives. Firstly, the ideological objective of the Commission, of Macron, people of that kind, centralise as much as possible, create this EU superstate, bring all the countries in, weaken the countries themselves as much as you can, because then you create the great EU superstate. The second is the ideological obsession of the neocons, obliterate all rivals to themselves, to the United States, their own conception of the United States, break up Russia, weaken Germany, keep Germany and Russia at odds with each other. That works well for them too, at least in the short term. And of course, if you are a believer in Klaus Schwab's fourth industrial revolution, if you want to see all of that sort of thing happen, well, you could see how this works to that agenda too.
Yeah.
The one set,
the most interesting, yeah.
The one set of people, of course, is not going to help with the unhappy people of Ukraine. But let's not worry too much about them. They're not really part of this game at all, or so it seems to me. Mm-hmm.
No, they're not. They're just being used as we've said it many times. They're fighting Russia to the last Ukrainian. We don't need to get into any details there. I think everyone understands what the Ukraine people are being used for. But the interesting part about all of this is that at the end of the day, in like 2, 3, 4, 6 months, even if the EU doesn't put an embargo on Russian oil, Russia's going to say, you know what, our contracts are up, our long-term contracts are up. We've got markets in India and China all over the place, and we're done with you guys. We just don't have any more oil for you all left. And
absolutely,
it's over. It's over. So it's actually going to be Russia that may walk away, not the EU.
No, absolutely. No, it will. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what's going to happen. And of course, we've now had another EU decision, which you're in a far better position to discuss than I am, but one which shows, the economic power the Russians still have, and the way in which certain key people in Europe are, nonetheless, in spite of all of this, when they're prepared to put their foot down, they can win, because, of course, as I understand it, the reports are that the EU has now dropped its idea of prohibiting EU tankers from shipping Russian oil. So it won't be shipped to the EU. It can't be shipped to the EU. It will be shipped to India, to China, to Latin America, to Africa, to the booming economies of Southeast Asia, to Japan, which is not prohibiting imports of Russian oil, to South Korea, ditto. And it will all be carried by EU tankers. And I understand most of them, by the way, are Greek. I think you have some information about this. Mm.
No, we were saying before the video, and I was just saying that 70% of the cargo, I believe something like 65-70% of the cargo from Greek shippers is Russian energy. And, well, you know this, that the Greek shipping industry is the most powerful industry in Greece. I mean, they decide who's going to be prime minister. They decide what the government's going to be. They have all the money. I mean, people think tourism and stuff like that. No, it's Greek shipping. Greek shipping runs Greece, period. It's the Greek shippers that have the football clubs. They have all the other businesses, the tech companies. They have it all. And they decide who's going to be prime minister and who's not. And so, real simple, they told Mitsotakis, if you do this, you're out. If you put an embargo on on transporting Russian oil, you're out. Plain and simple, you're gone. And Mitsotakis folded. And now Mitsotakis is going around saying that, his New Democracy Party will most likely win in the next election. Well, they're going to win because he didn't go up against the Greek shippers. If he goes up against the Greek shippers, they'll turn to the radical left if they have to. The Greek shippers will put in a communist government if they have to.
Absolutely.
As long as the government does not put embargoes and limits on their business. Period.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Mitsotakis knows his place. He knows his place in the totem pole of Greek power, and it is not at the top. At the top are the Greek shippers. He's somewhere a couple ladders under that.
Exactly, but can I just say? I mean, it may all sound rather brutal and perhaps not fully. Well, it might not, accord with some people's ideas of how democracy should work, but it's preserved and protected a Greek industry, a vital Greek industry. Whereas Germany,
exactly,
yes, mighty Germany can't protect its own industries because, whatever our faults in Greece, I'm straightforward about this, we are not ideologically driven people, the light perhaps in our part of the world is too clear.
And we don't have an ideological hatred for
For
Russia. I'm not
Russia,
saying
no.
Germans have an ideological hatred, but our political class, some do, but Baerbock and Habeck, yes, and maybe even Olaf Scholz. But, even Angela Merkel, even though her and Putin didn't get along, they didn't really like each other, Merkel didn't have a hatred for Russia, like a deep-seated hatred. The Greeks, for the political class's faults, for all their faults and all their corruption, and Mitsotakis, for all of his faults, and Tsipras, I'm going to go left, right, all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
For all of their faults that they have. And there are so many, I can't even begin to list them. But Greeks in general, including the political class, they do not have a hatred for Russia.
Exactly.
And that's why I think the Greek shippers can pull the trigger and tell him stop, and he'll stop.
Yeah. Yes. Now but I mean, if Greece could have said no, Germany, of course, could have done. And that the fact
The
that
Greens
they
are
didn't-
running the show in Germany.
That's what I was going to say. But they're only. I come back to this. They're only a quarter. They only have around a quarter of the votes. I mean, they can only do it because the remainder of the political class is going along with them. But there it is. It's very tragic to see. I can't say that it surprises me at the end of the day. And I'm going to finish by saying that this is another product, another legacy of Angela Merkel's, because she created a political desert in Germany. She removed from power everybody who had any personality, any force of ideas. She created this political desert in which people like Habeck and Baerbock are able to wield the extraordinary power that they do.
Yeah, we'll end it there. I mean, I just continue to say, everyone watching from Germany, it doesn't have to be like this.
No.
This doesn't have to happen. No. Anyway, all right, we'll leave it there. TheDuran.locals.com, everybody in the Duran shop. 10% off. Use the code. Good day. Take care.